She smiled and said, "You won't be staying here. We've booked you a motel." My husband kissed her cheek and whispered, "I'll be back after dinner." That was the moment I realized healing wasn't the only wound I carried. Betrayal had a deeper scar. Hi everyone, my name is Celine. I'm 32 years old and I had just come out of surgery when the people who were supposed to protect me discarded me like a burden. Do you know what it feels like when pain meets silence? When the man you gave your life to, the one who held your hand in hospital corridors, suddenly places his lips on another woman's cheek, his mother's cheek, and leaves you stranded. The air outside that house smelled like rain and cruelty. The porch light burned against my face as I sat there, weak from stitches, weaker from truth. He didn't look back. Not once. The motel was cheap, the kind that hummed with neon and mold. The sheets smelled of bleach and regret. I lowered myself onto the bed, every joint screaming, every thought screaming louder. The rain outside tapped like a cruel metronome, reminding me I was no longer a wife in his eyes. I was an inconvenience. I called him once. No answer. I texted. Silence. Instead, I saw him on social media smiling with them at dinner, plates full of food I couldn't swallow. And that's when I knew I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't crawl back like they expected. I made a single call, not to him, not to his parents, but to someone who knew exactly how betrayal tastes in the mouth. Someone who had been waiting for me to finally wake up. By morning, when he returned to our home, expecting me to be fragile, broken, waiting, what he found was emptiness. And a lawsuit. Because love isn't a leash. And betrayal is always a signed contract for war. The rain didn't stop that night. It fell hard against the motel window, each drop a reminder of how far I had fallen from the woman I thought I was. My body ached from the surgery, stitches pulling every time I shifted, nausea creeping up from the mix of painkillers and heartbreak. But the pain inside me cut deeper than anything stitched could hold together. I stared at the flickering ceiling light, listening to voices seeping through the thin walls. Strangers laughing, a TV blaring, a baby crying. All the sounds of lives moving forward while mine had been shoved into a corner and abandoned. My husband's face replayed in my mind, the way his lips pressed gently against his mother's cheek as if she were the one he owed devotion to. Not me. Not the woman who had given up her body, her dreams, her energy to build a life with him. And the worst part? He didn't even look back. Not once. I pressed the phone to my ear again, not to call him. No, I was done begging, but to hear the steady voice of the one person who had been warning me for years. My sister Dahlia. She picked up on the first ring. Her voice was sharp, protective. "Celine, what did he do now?" And I told her everything. The surgery, the car ride, the dismissal, the kiss on the cheek. By the time I got to the part about the motel, she was silent. Silent long enough that I knew she wasn't shocked. He was furious. "You're not going back there," she said finally. "Not ever. You've been covering for him, funding him, carrying him. Celine, this is the last time he gets to use you as his shadow. You're stronger than you think." Her words landed in me like anchors, holding me steady in the storm. For the first time in years, I felt clarity. So at dawn, I pulled myself up, packed the little bag I had, and checked out of that motel without looking back. By the time he came home expecting to find me, I was gone. But I hadn't disappeared into nothing. No, I was already moving chess pieces he never even saw on the board. Because marriage might be built on love, but divorce is built on power. And by the time he realized it, I would no longer be the abandoned wife. I would be the storm he never thought I had the strength to become. He came home at sunrise, still in last night's clothes, the smell of red wine clinging to him like a stain. I could almost picture it, him humming as he walked up the steps, sliding the key into the lock, ready to find me weak, obedient, sitting on the couch with my stitched-up body and teary eyes, waiting for his crumbs of attention. But when he pushed the door open, silence answered him. No shoes by the door. No bag on the chair. No wife. Just an echo of what used to be mine. On the kitchen table I left the only thing that mattered. A manila envelope thick with papers. The lawsuit. Divorce. Asset freeze. Restraining clause. All filed and signed. Dahlia had pulled every string she knew, her friend at the courthouse pushing it through before he even finished his dinner the night before. I imagined his smirk vanishing, his jaw clenching as he opened it, flipping through page after page that spelled the end of his control. His laugh, that arrogant laugh he always used when he thought I was too sensitive, replaced by silence heavy enough to choke him. While he stood there in confusion, I was already 2 cities away, sipping bitter motel coffee with Dahlia, my phone buzzing with notifications as accounts froze one by one. Our joint checking? Blocked. Credit cards? Blocked. Even the house wasn't safe for him, because my name was on every deed, every mortgage, every signature. He thought he could discard me like used fabric, but he forgot something. He had built this life on my sacrifices. Every dollar saved. Every late night worked. Every decision where I bent while he pretended to lead. Now I wasn't bending. I was breaking, but not myself. Him. Dahlia leaned across the table, her eyes fierce. He's going to come after you. Be ready. I nodded. As I knew him. He wouldn't accept defeat. He'd come storming, furious, desperate. But what he didn't know was that every storm needs lightning. And this time, I was holding the strike. It didn't take long. By afternoon my phone lit up with his name, again and again. First calls. Then messages. Each one more venomous than the last. Where are you? What the hell is this envelope? You can't do this to me. Celine, answer me. Now. I didn't. Dahlia watched me place the phone face down on the table, her lips curling in the faintest smirk. Silence was power. Silence was my new language. By evening the storm broke. He showed up. Not at the motel. No, I was smarter than that. But at Dahlia's townhouse, pounding on her front door like he had the right to break it down. His voice roared through the wood, ugly, sharp, shaking with the desperation of a man who suddenly realized the leash was around his neck. Celine. Open this damn door. You think you can walk away? You think you can take what's mine? What's his? As if I hadn't worked 2 jobs while he played entrepreneur. As if I hadn't cooked, cleaned, paid bills and stitched him into a life he never earned. Dahlia stood beside me, calm, holding a phone already dialing the police. Don't. A word, she whispered. Let him scream. And I did. I let him howl outside in the rain, his fists bruising the wood, his pride unraveling with every second of my silence. When the red and blue lights finally painted the night, he tried to shift his tone. From rage to pleading. From insults to promises. Baby, please, we can talk. Don't do this. You know I love you. It was just my parents pressuring me. I closed my eyes. That word, love, sounded like poison now. The officers stepped in, pulling him back, his voice cracking as he shouted over their shoulders. His eyes met mine through the window for a single moment. A mix of anger and something else. Fear. Because for the first time in our marriage he wasn't in control. And for the first time in my life, it finally was. The very next morning it wasn't him who came knocking. It was them. His parents pulled up in their polished SUV, the kind they always lorded over me like a trophy of their superiority. His mother stepped out first, pearls around her neck, umbrella in hand as though the rain couldn't dare touch her. His father followed, slower, eyes hard like steel sharpened by entitlement. I was standing at the window, Dahlia at my side, when the knock came, not frantic like his but calculated, like they already believed victory belonged to them. She didn't waste a second. Celine, open up. We need to talk about this nonsense you've created. You've embarrassed our son and us, dragging family matters into court. Do you have any idea how shameful this is? Shameful. Not what their son did. Not the betrayal. Not leaving his post-surgery wife in a motel while he dined at their table. No, in their world the shame was mine for refusing silence. Dahlia opened the door just enough to stand in the frame, her voice a blade. She's not speaking to you. His father's jaw twitched. This can be handled quietly. End this foolishness, drop the papers and we'll make sure you're taken care of. You'll still have a place. A place. Like a pet. Like an obedient shadow allowed to exist if it bows. I stepped forward then, letting them see me. Pale from recovery, yes. Weakened in body, yes. But my eyes burned with something neither of them expected. I already have a place, I said quietly. It just doesn't include any of you. Her lips curled into a cruel smile. You're nothing without him. Who do you think you are, Celine? He gave you everything. I felt my stitches ache as I drew breath, but my voice didn't tremble. No, I gave him everything. And now I'm taking it back. For the first time their expressions faltered. Just slightly. Enough for me to know the power had shifted. They thought their son could discard me. They thought I'd crawl. They thought wrong. Because I wasn't just leaving. I was dismantling. Brick by brick, dollar by dollar, lie by lie. And they were about to learn the cost of underestimating a woman who had nothing left to lose. They wanted war? I had already begun it. His parents underestimated me in the same way he always had, as though I were fragile glass, easy to crack. But what they never understood was that glass can cut deeper than steel once it shatters. 2 days after their visit, their lawyer called mine. Their tone was smug, dripping with arrogance. This case won't hold. She has no proof. She's wasting her time. Proof? Proof was something I had in abundance. Years of bank statements with my name tied to every payment that kept their son's failing businesses alive. Receipts from my overtime shifts, funneled directly into their mortgage gifts. Even signed notes from him promising to pay me back. Debts written in his own careless handwriting. And then there were the messages. Screenshots of him mocking me to his friends. Calling me the walking wallet. Telling them he only stayed because Celine pays and my mom loves her cooking. Every word a blade, but now, every blade was mine to use. Dahlia helped me gather it all. She spread the evidence across her dining table like a war map, her eyes glinting as she said, "Celine, you don't just have a case. You have a takedown." So we filed for spousal support. Property division. Damages. Not just divorce but dismantling. I didn't just want out. I wanted every dollar, every hour, every piece of myself I had poured into their empire acknowledged on paper, signed by a judge. The next blow came fast. A court order freezing his business account, the one his parents had pumped money into for years. He showed up at Dahlia's again, red-faced, screaming that I was destroying him. Destroying him? No. He had destroyed himself. I was simply the mirror. When he threatened me, called me worthless, promised I'd regret this, Dahlia stepped between us, phone raised, recording every word. His rage, his insults, his threats, all of it became part of the case file by the end of the night. I watched him leave, fists clenched, parents dragging him back toward their SUV. His mother's voice carried down the street. "We'll bury you for this, Celine." But what she didn't know was that the shovel was already in my hands. And with every piece of evidence, every frozen account, every legal strike, I was the one digging. It began with whispers. The kind that slipped through town like smoke, curling into every corner, choking every room. His parents had always guarded their reputation like a crown jewel. Sunday luncheons, donations at church, polished smiles that hid their rot. But once the lawsuit hit the public record, that crown began to tarnish. The first blow was financial. Their business partners learned their accounts were frozen. Deals stalled. Investors pulled out. Overnight, the power couple who once boasted of running this town became liabilities. I heard it from a former coworker. His father had stormed out of a meeting red-faced, shouting about that ungrateful girl ruining us. Then came the social unraveling. Friends stopped visiting. Neighbors stopped waving. At dinner parties, people whispered my name not as pity but as power. The wife they tried to throw away is the one who brought them down. Dahlia showed me an article one morning. A local business blog. Headline: Community icons face lawsuit, family fortune at risk. Their faces were plastered on the screen, no longer adored but dissected. Meanwhile, he was unraveling faster than them. He showed up drunk at our old house, shouting in the driveway until police hauled him off. His messages to me shifted from rage to begging. "Please, Celine. Don't do this. We can fix us. I need you." Need. Not love. Never love. I didn't reply. The court date loomed closer. My lawyer assured me we were untouchable. The evidence was iron. But it wasn't just about winning in court anymore. It was about something bigger. Reclaiming the pieces of myself I had buried to serve them. One night I stood outside their home. Rain again, as though the sky wanted to echo the night this all began. Their lights were on, but the house looked different now. Not a fortress, not a palace. Just a hollow shell trembling under its own weight. And I realized something. They had called me nothing, a burden, an inconvenience. Yet here they were, collapsing because the burden had finally decided to stop carrying them. I whispered to the night, to myself, "The storm you created is the one you'll drown in." The courtroom smelled of paper and cold air, sterile, merciless, perfect. I sat there in my dark suit, stitches healed now, heart harder than bone as they filed in. Him first, slouched in defeat, his tie crooked. His parents behind him, dressed to impress, but their eyes betrayed sleepless nights. They still carried the arrogance of people who believed the world owed them its silence. But silence had shifted sides. My lawyer laid it all out. The receipts, the transfers, the screenshots of his mockery, the threats he'd spat outside Dahlia's door. Piece by piece, their empire cracked under the weight of their own greed. His father's jaw locked tighter with every document. His mother's pearls shook against her throat as her son's words filled the air. She's just my wallet. The jury didn't look at me with pity. They looked at me with recognition. When the judge finally spoke, her voice was a blade cutting clean. Spousal support granted. Assets divided. Business accounts seized until debts were paid. A ruling in my favor on every point. He stared at me, eyes wet as if the word consequences had never existed in his dictionary until now. His parents sputtered, whispering about appeals, about disgrace, about me. But the gavel silenced them. And for once they couldn't buy their way out. I walked out of that courthouse with Dahlia at my side, sunlight spilling over us like absolution. Reporters called my name, cameras flashed, but I didn't speak. My silence was enough. It said everything, that I was no longer the fragile wife discarded in the rain. I was the woman who took her pain and turned it into power. That night I unlocked the door of my new home, small, quiet, mine. I lit a candle, brewed tea, and breathed in peace. No footsteps looming, no voices mocking, no chains disguised as love. And I thought of him, of them, in their hollow house with their hollow pride, staring at empty accounts and fractured reputations. The family that tried to throw me away had been buried beneath the weight of their own cruelty. Poetic justice isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And in that whisper lies the sharpest revenge of all. Peace. I set the candle by the window, let the flame dance in the dark, and whispered my final word into the quiet night.